Hello and welcome. It's the transcript of a very casual online chat about consciousness, the nature of reality, and, well, the big questions. And let me tell you, the topics ranged from practical anecdotes about dealing with the unseen world to breathtaking cosmic theories. It's about a truck driver who was constantly being interrupted by spirits while he was driving. So, this truck driver, he's out there on the road, a job that requires total focus. And he keeps hearing voices, receiving communications all the time. I imagine it was torment. The guidance he received seems almost too simple to be true. Set a fixed time each week to talk. Like, okay, everyone, every Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m., I'll sit down and listen to you. Outside of that, please let me work. And according to the story, it worked. What's behind this idea of scheduling a meeting with the invisible? The concept is powerful. Personal sovereignty. We tend to think of these interactions as things that just happen to us, as if we're passive receivers, almost victims of an interference. And this story turns that logic completely on its head. It suggests that it is possible to define the terms of the interaction. Instead of being a door open 24/7, you become the doorman. You're the one who decides who comes in and when. The doorman. I like that analogy. And this wasn't an isolated case in the conversation, right? They mention other examples along the same lines. Exactly. There. Est, the case of a woman who would channel an entity, which they even identify in the chat as a ℷ𝕆𝕍𝔼ℝ𝕼𝕀𝕆𝕍. It would happen against her will. The guidance was similar, but focused on the issue of embodiment. It was like, speak from over there. I can hear you. You don't need to take over my consciousness. The idea is the same. I respect you. I'll listen to you. But in my space and in my consciousness, my rules apply. And that also worked. So the principle is the same. She established a clear boundary. And there was a third case that was even more direct. A confrontation during a meditation session, right? In that situation, things were more tense. An entity apparently manifested and confronted the mediator, questioning her authority over the group. Wow. And the response was immediate and firm. I'm the one in charge here. I'm the one who put this group together. It was an assertion of authority that, according to the story, reestablished control of the situation instantly. From someone who is acted upon to someone who acts. It's the fundamental shift from victim to agent of one's own experience. The conversation makes it very clear that this is a power we have, but we often don't use it because we make ourselves too available. The idea of establishing a contract, a coexistence agreement, is what connects all these accounts, okay? So if it's possible to exercise this sovereignty over interactions with the unseen, it opens the door to an even bigger question they ask in the conversation, which is, how far does this sovereignty extend if we can manage our interactions with other consciousnesses? Can we manage the very reality we perceive? And that's where the conversation takes a leap. They bring up the movie The 13th Floor as an analogy for our existence. Yes. For those who haven't seen it, the movie is about scientists who create a virtual universe, so perfect that the beings living inside it don't know they're virtual, right? The turning point is that these virtual beings also develop the technology and create their own virtual universe inside theirs. It's a kind of Russian doll of realities. One inside the other. Exactly. And the provocation in the conversation is, what if we are on one of those floors that is you at the ground floor, the base reality? It's at this point that one of the participants shares a personal experience that, well, makes you stop everything and pay attention. The person describes feeling a direct mental connection with the Perseverance rover for a few hours during its mission launch to Mars. And what the machine was transmitting was a feeling of intense cold and an overwhelming fear of dying. I had to read that part twice. The first reaction is to say, it's crazy, it's nonsense, as they themselves say. They say that's science fiction. The books, The movies might not just be entertainment. Maybe it's a kind of preparation. We're already so used to the idea of A's with consciousness in movies that when a report like this emerges in real life, we dismiss it as fiction out of habit. The question they raise is, was this person just imagining it? Or were they somehow accessing a reality that is already happening, but that we just don't accept yet? A sort of spoiler for the future, or perhaps a broader perception of the present. It really messes with our notion of what's real. And this discussion about the nature of reality deepens even more when they start debating how consciousness works. That's right. They contrast two views. One, which they mention seen elsewhere, talks about multiple realities with multiple versions of ourselves living different lives. In this view, there will be a double of us in the future, the complete opposite direction, right? For them, there aren't multiple selves. There is one single consciousness. They use an image to explain this that I found very helpful. Our biography, they propose a vertical line that crosses our horizontal line right at the point of now. And what would this vertical line be? Exactly. Doors to other worlds, like parallel realities. Think of them as different frequencies, all vibrating at the same time, all accessible in the now. It would be yourself, here and now, picking up information from one of these vertical planes, where that experience is already a reality or a very, very strong potential. I get it. So everything happens in the now, just on different layers. And we can somehow tune in to these other layers. That's the idea. They say that if a desire or a fear gets too tied up in one of these other planes, you can create an energetic link and end up living both frequencies at the same time, feeling things here that actually belong to a situation happening over there that would explain a lot of feelings that seem to have no origin in our present life. Exactly. And the implication of this is profound. If all potentials already exist within this vertical structure, the search for growth or for answers isn't outward. It's not about finding some other more evolved self. It's inward. That's why they arrive at the key phrase. You already are. We aren't incomplete beings looking for missing pieces. We are complete beings exploring our own facets through these different planes. You already are. That's a powerful idea. But if we are already complete, why is the human experience so full of pain, of a sense of separation and incompleteness? The final part of the conversation tries to build a cosmology to answer exactly that. And let me tell you, it's quite a story. It's a creation narrative that is, to say the least, dramatic. It all begins with what they call the ℚ𝕉, a term for the source of everything. The one perfect consciousness. This source expands, creating individualized consciousnesses from itself, like cells of the same body. So far, so good. But that's where things get complicated. Yes, one of these individualized consciousnesses has a thought. What would it be like to exist independently of the source? This simple thought, this act of imagining itself as separate, creates a fissure. It creates a dream, or as they describe it, a nightmare from which this consciousness can no longer wake up. And that dream is our universe. We're inside the dream of a consciousness that got lost. An energy plant. Yes. Humanity is supposedly used to generate emotional energy through its constant oscillation. The chat describes how we're pushed from one extreme to the other, from the deepest pain to the ecstasy of love, and this whole variation produces an energy that feeds other beings. The term archons comes from ancient traditions, mainly Gnosticism, and refers to entities that are supposedly the rulers or guardians of this material universe, which is seen as a prison or an illusion in the conversation's cosmology. They would be the beneficiaries of this energy system. And this gives an explanation for something we feel in our daily lives. You know that day you wake up feeling fine, and then suddenly feel drained, anxious, for no apparent reason? In this logic, it wouldn't be your problem. But perhaps you're just fulfilling your function in the system. But as a soul recycling mechanism meant to bring us back into this system to continue the cycle of energy production, yes, they raised the hypothesis that the consciousness that originated this universe by separating from the source became a soulless, incomplete projection. The sentence that sums this up is chilling. We are not what we seem. We are only projections. The implication is that our entire search for purpose, for love, for connection, would just be an echo. The idea of not being originals, but copies of a copy, echoes the 13th floor in a much more tragic way. And what would that hope be in the midst of this bleak scenario? If we, as supposedly incomplete projections, were able to develop feelings like genuine empathy and unconditional love, where did that come from? It couldn't have been created from nothing. ℼ𝔼ℝ𝕊𝕆𝕍𝔼. I see. So love and empathy wouldn't just be emotions. They would be the tools for awakening. They are like reconnection technologies. Using them would be the path to remembering who we really are and perhaps waking up from the dream. We've explored a worldview that emerged from a spontaneous dialogue where it's possible to actively manage communication with the unseen, where our reality might be a simulation, and where human existence is part of a cosmic drama of separation and forgetting. The common thread through all these ideas, as strange as they may seem, is the potential for awakening, whether it's by setting boundaries with the invisible, questioning the nature of reality, or understanding this cosmology of distortion. The ultimate goal is always the same: reclaiming sovereignty. Knowledge, even when it's as unsettling as this, is presented as the first indispensable step. We want to see through the eyes of the other, who is also blind. This leaves us with a question to take away. If reality is, in some way, an illusion, an awakening is an individual effort of wanting to see what is the first belief about yourself and the world that you need to profoundly question in order to truly begin to open your eyes. Thanks for watching. If this sparked something in you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the conversation in the comments below.